The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Hi everyone, and welcome to Arts Alive. We're at the studio of artist extraordinaire, Brian Fox, today. So he's going to give us a tour and talk about some of his work. Hi, Brian.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
My pleasure. Great to have you here.
Yeah.
Tell us about this table. You were just talking about this
Yeah.
before we started on
This
air.
table is made by a friend of mine whose dad was in Vietnam. It didn't go over, and he was in Germany, but my friend made it because he knew I was doing a lot of military work, especially for the Vietnam. And the veterans would come in, he said, look, I'm gonna make something for you. And so what he did was, he made this out of wood. You can't really see it on top, but there's glass, and inside there's M16 bullets, and then 45 bullets inside because of the M16s and the 45s they use. This is a shell casing that he made to stand up the table. It's an old 1937 truck hubcap. And it says property of U.S. military on top, so it's got this great feel.
Yeah.
And you know, I have my other stuff on top of it, but when people come in, it's kind of I work on it all day long, scribble all on it, but it just has a great feel to it. It was just a gift. It was gifted to me, and out of the kindness of his heart.
Now, I think we might be able to get some photos of that, right? Some shots of what Brian has talked about on the inside. Yeah, we can pick that up. So tell us about the painting. Which you had mentioned was sort of the beginning of your Vietnam foray, shall we say? Or
Yeah, so this one's Justin Latini and Joe Marshall had come to me. They were putting something.
Wall.
Yeah, they were trying to fund the
wall.
permanent wall
Yeah,
being put out here. So they said, can you come up with a painting that would help raise money for it? And I said, sure. And this was a long process. It took about 6 months to create, because I said, look, I'll do this. I said, but can you get in-country Vietnam veterans to come in and talk to me about not what to paint, but why to paint it?
Yeah.
I said, I'll leave that up to you. Anybody comfortable enough to come in to speak to me, so I get an understanding. So they did. And when they came in here, there was 6 guys. It was closed door. Nobody else was in here. And when they started, they said, look, we're going to invite one particular gentleman too. He's on our board. He's a lawyer. His name's Harry Terrian. He's a 2-tour Marine vet, did time up on the DMZ. He was in the thick of it, but he has never spoken about the war, but we want to invite him. Halfway through that meeting, about an hour into it, Harry starts to speak. Hey, I spent, I lived in a hole for a year. So instantly the whole room goes quiet, and you realize these other veterans hold him in high esteem, and he starts to speak a little bit about his time over there. And since then, it changed everything for me, because I now realized how important this project became. It wasn't Tom Brady throwing a football. It wasn't David Ortiz hitting a home run. This was more important on a level to people, So that's how I started doing this. That's how I came into doing this. And what I thought was going to take 1 month to create a painting, I think I'll just come up with something. It took 6 months.
Wow.
And because I kept changing it, I kept changing the faces, I kept adding, it morphed so many different times because I had to get it right. And what they told me, the in-country veterans, and any veteran who made their way in here later, was like, the most important thing was never forget the guys who didn't come home.
Yeah.
Never forget the men and women who didn't come home, the fathers, the sons. So you start to realize that's all they care about, is the guys who didn't come home. So to represent something on canvas that they feel is important was the whole issue.
Yeah, and they apparently were very happy with with the final product.
Yeah, it was, again, like I said, it's nothing like I've ever done before, with the amount of emotional impact.
Yeah.
And there were so many stories that surrounded the unveiling of the painting, or when they came in to see it. And throughout the whole process, there was a certain core group of Vietnam veterans who would come in and make sure I had everything right.
Right.
Did you get the gun belt right? Did you get the gun right? Did you get the helmet, the flak jacket, the this, the that? And it was important. I wouldn't have known without their help. So they would come in.
Of course not. Yeah.
And then as they would come in, I would always put my brushes down. We'd have a coffee. I would always be, and they would share a little bit at a time about their time in country.
Their own time.
And then
yeah.
you realize how important this is,
Yeah.
and how, you know.
And why don't you tell us about some of the others? I'm looking at one here, a helicopter.
Yeah.
Helicopter lift of, yeah.
So
Those were
again, so one painting. We did one painting to help build the wall.
the never forget piece.
Right.
Yeah.
I thought, after talking to them, I'm thinking, there's got to be more than one painting. So I took it upon myself. It's a project that is, you know, I feel like God's saying, you got to do more for these guys.
Yeah.
So nobody's paying for it. I'm being the sole provider for the family. I got to take paying jobs, but in my heart, I know I need to do more painting. So that's why I started to do 6 or 7 more large-scale paintings to continue to tell their story, the Vietnam veterans.
Right.
So you see these other paintings in various stages. They're not completely finished, but I'm working on them when I have time. I mean, the Huey helicopter, that's about almost 7 feet wide. So, you know, and then there's another one of, you know, up on Cantien, which was a place that was up on the DMZ. There's some other ones in just being sketched out of rice paddies and howitzers, and then there's another one that's showcasing the canine dogs.
Yeah.
But I want to use these all to educate people too, like what these guys lived through and what was going on. So it becomes artwork, but it also becomes something educational. And they all agreed to come back, the vets, to make sure I continue to get it right, meaning all the details.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'll do it again if you guys come back and help me. And they were like, absolutely.
So the one with that would have Thurian in it is
That one there, which is Cantien. He was in that battle. He was in that, on that hill, and it's really what's called Hill of Angels.
Yeah.
And he was in what was called the Marine unit, the Walking Dead. And if you start to read about the Walking Dead, the Walking Dead was dubbed the Walking Dead because it was such high casualty rates.
That's what I was
sitting on
thinking.
this
It
hill.
had to be, yeah.
Yeah, and just getting shot at every single day.
amazing.
It can't. How do you live with? And he said, look, it was like World War I trench conditions. There's no electricity out there. You're in a trench. How do you like body parts? There's mud. It smells like trash. How do you live through that? Like, to me, that's we live in a bubble in here. We live in a great country that we don't see that.
Exactly.
But he's 18, 19 years, 17 years old.
Yeah.
How, can you imagine being a 17-year-old and being in that?
Exposed to that.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah, it is.
So sometimes we don't look at, especially today, everybody's on their phone. I'm guilty of it too. We don't pick up a textbook anymore. We don't take the time. But if I can get somebody, a younger 14-year-old, 15-year-old, to look at a painting and then they read about it because it's something on the side of it, well, maybe I can educate them a little bit about somebody else who's still walking around who lived through this.
Yeah, really. Now, wasn't he featured on the cover of, was he the one that was featured on the cover of Time or
No, I don't
Life
think
or
so.
one of them?
I
Okay.
don't think so. He was in a series of photographs that were in Life magazine, but he wasn't. You know.
Well, okay. It
So
wasn't
he's
the
in
cover.
some of those photos. You can
Yeah,
see him in
yeah,
these battlefields,
yeah.
and you're like, holy mackerel! Like,
yeah.
again, it's a sobering thing when you start to listen to these Vietnam vets and
Oh,
what
definitely.
they've lived through.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm an artist. I play with paint for a living. You know what I mean? I'm not in the military.
No,
So,
no.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a whole new, experience for you too,
For sure.
obviously, in all
Yeah.
of this. And you mentioned, and maybe it's a way to segue into the sports celebrities when you talked about it's not Tom Brady throwing a football,
Right.
but we do have some, right? Of
Yep.
Tom and
I
some
did a
of
lot.
his,
I did a lot
yeah,
with Tom
Gronk
when he was
and,
here. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And when they were on the Patriots.
How did that come to be?
Well, I started
Brian?
working with Matt Light, who was an all-pro lineman
yeah,
for the
yeah,
Patriots.
yeah.
I started working with him and his charity. And I created some paintings that raised money for his charity. And then while he was playing at the time, and that kind of opened the door via word of mouth, these paintings I was creating for him. And he would show the other players, and the other players would be like, hey, can you do something for my charity? And we would like something. So that's kind of how it's all word of mouth, and one door opens another.
But you became very close to Gronkowski.
Rob is
Apart from, yeah.
Yep, great guy, and again, just because he's who you see on TV. He's a fun-loving guy. He's hard not to want to be around. His family's great. I mean, all these brothers and his dad they're just super people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The little spot that he had in what was it, 80 for Brady?
I didn't see the
80 for
movie. I
Brady.
didn't
Yeah,
see the
it's a very
movie. Everybody
cute
said it was
movie.
great. But
Yeah,
he's
it
so
was,
easygoing.
yeah.
He's so fun to hang around. Yeah, he's a great guy.
Well, both he and Brady, I thought, were very good in it, you know?
Yeah.
Very natural,
Yep.
and yeah, of course the ladies loved them.
Yeah, hey, of course they do.
Naturally, yeah.
Yeah.
And there was somebody else too, wasn't there? Well, getting into the celebrities, the other type of celebrities, we have the performing artists.
Yep.
That you've also had a lot to do with. I think you've been involved with fundraisers in California and Los Angeles.
With Steven Tyler. So so Steven Tyler, he's connected with what's called Janie's Fund, and Janie's Fund helps abused women. So again, through the connections and talking, getting to know Steven and becoming friendly with Steven, he said, hey, can you come out to Hollywood and create some paintings and we'll raise money for this charity? So I said, sure. So that's kind of the short version of the story, and I've done it for a number of years in a row, and it's been pretty fun and surreal to go out there and do that with them.
Now, what do you do exactly?
We
Do you
did.
do a painting when you're?
Yeah. So each year it changed. So one year we offered. I did one painting. We presented that, and then we sold copies of it right at the event. So 50 copies signed by me and Steven. They raised $440,000 in 5 minutes.
My God!
In 5 minutes, because in the room you have the all the celebrities. You have Guns N' Roses. You have Alice Cooper. You have Johnny Depp. You have all these people in this room.
With lots of money.
Yeah, and they want to help this great cause.
Yeah.
So then the next year they said, hey, let's do something a little different. So the following year I painted live on stage while things were going on, everything's happening, and anybody who bid on the painting got to be put in the painting with Steven. So the painting was of Steven Tyler singing with his arm out, but nobody was there yet. So if you bid high enough, you got put into the painting. You own the originals. Steven signed it, took pictures with you, and all that stuff. So
That's
that
great.
was
Yeah.
So again, people raising great money for a great foundation.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what it was. So it changes every year.
So Tyler, how did that relationship develop?
So again, through the circles of working with the sports guys, I was at a UFC event in Boston, and I met an actor. His name is Kevin Chapman, and he's done amazing work over the years. He's been in Person of Interest. He's been in a lot of stuff. You know this guy. But he's from Boston.
Yeah.
And he and I became friends. And over the years, he said, "Hey, do you know Steven Tyler?" And I said, "No, I don't." And he said, "I'm going to introduce your work to him." So that it was again just an introduction from Kevin to Steven. And eventually, all of a sudden, I get a call from Steven one night. I'm at the dinner table, and I'm like, first I think it's a telemarketer because it says unknown. I'm like, it's dinner. And I go, hello, and it's Steven Tyler. And you kind of go, whoa, it's kind of surreal. That's probably 10 years ago now.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So since then, you get to become friendly and you get to know them. And so it's been an interesting ride for sure.
Well, with that and with so many other things, obviously, that opened up, this picture behind the purple hair.
Oh, so
Tell us about that one.
that one was,
That
again,
kind of intrigues me. that
yeah,
one.
for sure. So that's a musician called Machine Gun Kelly, and I don't know his music.
Oh, yeah.
And there are times as an artist, and when you talk to any artist, that you just want to do something for the sake of painting, or play something. It's not a job. And I'm like, I want to paint that guy's hair. He's got this pink hair. I'm like, I just want to do this cool painting of him in his pink hair. So what I did was, I just created that, but what I used was this stuff called, for the hell of it, I used liquid death water to mix with my paints. And I mixed it all up, and I made this cool video of kind of this 40-second, it's clearly took me longer than 40 seconds, but 45 seconds is kind of cool video with music and kind of start to finish of this painting. So it was kind of a fun thing to do, and I did it for the hell of it.
Yeah. Did you send it to him?
Yeah, he loved it. He loved it, and
yeah.
then all those people saw it. So that it's just I did it for the hell of it more so than to see what they'd say. But I did get a good reaction from it.
I think I've seen him on Saturday Night Live.
Oh, I'm sure he's very, very
Yeah.
popular, and he's wildly successful too.
Yeah.
I haven't met him in person, but again, I just wanted to paint the pink hair.
Is there someone you'd like to do that you haven't? Have you thought about that?
Yeah, no, there's so many. I mean, I've worked on a lot of different levels. So, for example, I'd like to work with Johnny Depp, but I have through Walt Disney, painting him officially for Pirates of the Caribbean. So I've done a lot of Johnny Depp. So that was kind of a fun project to do. And I've done stuff of U2, Bono and U2.
Yeah.
And then the Kraft family bought those. I was going to try to get to the band and work with them, but somebody else bought them first. So
Well, that's not bad.
it's not a bad problem.
No? That works.
So yeah, and you try a lot of things, and a lot of things don't work. Like sometimes I'll paint certain things and it doesn't go anywhere, or even like the Machine Gun Kelly hasn't gone anywhere, and it's throwing a lot of stuff against the wall, and it's something
And you
sticks.
never know, like you said, you never know.
And sometimes it takes 10 years before somebody, or 5 years before somebody goes, hey, I'm going to buy that painting.
Yeah.
It's not always great business, but as an artist, you kind of like, hey, I want to paint this anyway, regardless if it sells.
Yeah, it can't just be all about the money.
No,
All
not as an
about
artist.
that. No,
Artists
no.
don't make good businessmen.
Well, you're doing all right, though, Brian.
I get by,
Yeah, really, yeah, you do.
I'm very, very thankful. I'm blessed that I can do what I love, be around my family and the people I love,
Right,
and
right.
get paid to do what I like.
And
so
you've got a son going to college.
2.
Oh, both in
2
college?
now, yeah.
Oh, wow.
It's crazy. Yeah,
Yeah.
time goes by fast. I was Mr. Mom when this was all going on, and my wife had kind of left her job, her full-time job, and she's an accountant. So she
That's
could
a
take
big
care.
plus.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
she left, and she was able to again, leap of faith. It's you kind of put the family first, and the quality of life of the family, being home to take care of the boys, and
Right.
then everything was on the artist, and it's kind of a crazy. You never know when you're getting paid. Crazy lifestyle. But God
And
provides.
how did you begin? What were the beginnings of your...
Into this particular stage I'm at right now?
No, in the very beginning.
The very beginning, I think it starts with, many people have the same beginnings where any kid likes to draw and paint, but when you're encouraged by your parents or your brothers, and you keep doing it. So that encouragement when you're young always keeps you going, whether it's sports or whether it's academics or anything.
Yeah.
A kid will be drawn to that. And I was always good at drawing, and I liked playing sports as a kid. I wasn't good enough to be on any big teams by any means, but so that's why a lot of the sports stuff, I like sports and I like to draw. So that's kind of how that started, and my dad and mom were like, well, nobody's been to college before. You're going to keep going. You're going to go to college for art. I'm like, okay. So, you kind of make your way and you bumble around through life and kind of end up where you end up,
Yeah.
I wasn't planning on doing any of this.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
When you think about it,
Yeah.
Yeah. Where it all comes to be.
And what I've realized is you don't get anywhere without good people behind you. Everybody sees me as the artist who paints this thing, but nobody sees, my wife at home or my kids or the people who encourage you, my friends and close family that are always supporting you or encouraging you, and nobody sees that, but they're there, and without them, you don't get anywhere.
No, you've got to have you have to have the support.
It's a team effort.
Oh, absolutely.
Whether the people see the team or not, they're there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as you're moving forward, what do you see happening?
I don't know.
Yeah.
That's the funny thing. I haven't known before. Like years ago, like I was talking to Steve a little bit earlier, and I was like, I used to live in a shed, slept on the floor, and trading my drawings for food at one point.
Good
you know
Lord.
what I mean? So
Well,
it's kind
yeah. I've seen that before. Yeah.
So I don't know. Like I said, I wasn't planning on doing any of this, and it just, a door opened up and it kept opening and opening and opening, and you kind of just kept going through it. So you try to stay open to, when God opens certain doors, and you kind of go through it.
Go through it,
Yeah, you kind of, sometimes in your heart you know what to do. Like even with the Vietnam paintings, I'm like, I know I need to do these. I don't know where they're even going to go. I'm curious to see what's going to happen with these paintings.
Yeah, other than the walls, we don't have a building as such.
No.
Now, I'm not just talking obviously Fall River, on a national scale regarding the war.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is kind of interesting,
It is.
given what it was and
Yeah.
the length of time that it was and the number of people that were lost in it,
Yeah,
that fought in it and were lost in it, yeah.
Yeah, was it 10 years, even longer, maybe longer than 10
Oh,
years?
longer, yeah.
15
We started
years?
in the late 50s.
Yeah, well, so then that's
58,
even further.
59, we went in as advisors and left in 75.
Wow,
That
that's
was
incredible. That's an
when it
incredible
put the
chunk of
pullout.
time, yeah.
That'd make a great, finale and again, the helicopters for the end of the war.
Yeah, and
Great finale painting, where now they're leaving a lot of people behind
Yeah,
in that liftoff.
yep.
Yeah.
Very similar to
Afghanistan.
Yes.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
exact replica of that.
Yeah. History repeating itself. And
Yeah.
you know, working with the Vietnam guys has opened up. So Matt Light, again, back to Matt Light and the Patriots. He's got his own foundation called the Light Foundation, and a lot of the special forces he's been bringing in the military. Guys who are probably in their late 40s and maybe early 50s now, who are kind of out of done their time. For example, he has a guy by the name of Kevin Holland, who was the only guy in U.S. history to be Navy SEAL Team 6 and Delta Force, which is incredible. He was one of the guys who got Saddam Hussein out of the hole. He comes to their event, and it's become more of a military event. So I said to him, I said, look,
Really?
yeah, I said,
Wow.
hey, what if we do a series called the American Warrior Series, that instead of painting, let's say, a football player or a baseball player, we paint a military, a veteran, a special forces veteran. We focus on him, we print his bio, and we educate people about who this servant of the country is. Not the celebrity of the country, but the servant of the country. We'll make a series of it. And we'll do a series of signed canvases. And we'll use it to raise money for your charity.
Well, yeah, that's similar to what, if you go through the Holocaust Museum in Washington, they give you a little, and I think there's another one that does something similar, another museum, but they give you a card, and you become that person.
Wow, that's powerful.
And you don't know until the end whether or not that person survived. You
Wow.
survived, yeah.
Wow,
Yeah,
what an
it is.
educational tool.
Well, that's it.
It's that, and so if we can do that, and more people do stuff like that, then I think you can help your fellow man, or you can kind of maybe not make the same mistakes in history again and again. So
Oh, that would be the ideal.
hopefully,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so tell us, Brian, about that photo that's so very interesting with the Never Forget
Sure.
painting there.
So this was actually a photo taken from the public unveiling at White's in Westport when Joe Marshall and the council had put together this massive event of 200 people coming in, and we unveiled this painting for the first time in public. And as we unveiled it, there were many veterans there. People from the State House. People, they got up and came towards the painting. They were coming up to
Wanted
the stage.
to see it, yeah.
They wanted to see this painting, and there was a gentleman being helped up to the stage by a woman, and he was in tears, like just crying. And I'm on stage, and I notice him coming in, and I'm going to lose it, right? So I don't know what to do. I'm getting emotional. I don't know who this gentleman is, but he's crying and he's being helped up on stage. I just hugged the man, and somebody, this guy Steve Manchester, as you know Steve, he just takes his phone, takes this picture, and this man disappears. He goes back into the crowd. I don't even know his name. I don't even know who he was, and he just disappeared. But it was such an emotional moment that was caught by a friend of mine. But if you look, there are four guys in the painting, 4 soldiers in the painting, and there just happens to be 4 shadowed heads looking down over us. And it was
Amazing,
just And it took me a year to find out who this man was, and I finally had got him to come to the studio. And I said to him, I said, what happened that night? I said, you were so emotional, you disappeared. He goes, I lived that scene you painted. I lived it. And he says, I couldn't control myself emotionally. So I was blown away by the power that, what he told me about.
Exactly. And you had another one on the other side.
Yeah.
You talked about almost like a catharsis type of,
So when I was creating this painting, you have to, as an artist, you have to fill your head with all these stories and documentaries and reading books and the stories from the soldiers that would come in. And this is heavy stuff. So my wife was like, you're getting depressed every night. Like, stop doing it. Like, stop feeding your head with this stuff because it's affecting you tremendously. And I didn't live it. You know what I mean? It's like, I can't imagine these guys living this stuff. So when we unveiled this painting in the studio privately, I had to paint something else. They didn't ask me to paint this painting, but I had to paint this that represented all the guys who I talked to, all the stuff I watched, and it was just in any man's face of these soldiers, the in-country guys, and it's called The Weight of Memory. And it just speaks for itself. Sometimes it's like if you can't say it, sometimes you got to paint it.
Right.
So I did. And even one of the veterans' wives later had saw it and said, I now understand my husband. So
that's powerful.
Right. So again, if somebody comes in and goes, we see these guys as, oh, these soldiers, oh, they look fine. But we don't know what's going on in their head because of what they've lived through. So if something like this lets us have a little more empathy for somebody, maybe it would help out too.
So we have another work, Brian, in progress. Why don't you tell us a little bit about Vietnam related, I think, too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this one is just in a different, it's part of the next series I was creating. So we did the one, and this is part of the next 6 painting series, but this is just in the sketch stage of it. So you kind of have to figure it out, and it's really about the artillery guys who were over there. So another storyline, another narrative of the war that I wanted to kind of show people was the artillery guys. And it's a 105 howitzer, and it's, these guys have just, the way they work together, it's this team of guys, this 6 team of guys, and they're loading it, and one guy's throwing the shell away, and it's this, and they're going to be in the mud and rain, and it's just going to show the misery over there as well. So, but it's only in the sketch stage at this form. It'll be just as detailed as the other paintings once I complete it.
Yeah, and that, again, the teamwork of it all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Over in the jungle and over dealing with all that stuff and just trying to get the size of the painting will hopefully, paint a picture of the gravity of the situation.
Is there anything that you've done for you, beyond like Never Forget, that has a special place in your heart that you really feel very strongly about, among any discipline of subject, wouldn't matter what? Is there something that
This
really...
one, the weight of memory has I've had people come in and say, I don't care what you want for it, I'll pay you whatever you want. I'm like, I can't sell that.
Really?
Yeah, that one. And there's another series I did years ago called Murder Incorporated, which was, it's 3 of the most effective men in the Bible were murderers, and how nobody's outside of God's grace, which was Moses, King David, and Paul, who was Saul earlier.
Right.
All 3 were murderers, and just so that had a powerful effect on that series of paintings also did.
So Brian, tell us about these. Intrigue me, these metal pieces that of faces there.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about those.
Okay. In having the Vietnam vets come in and visit the studio, in their conversations over the months they would come in, you'd find out that they're all on some level dealing with Agent Orange, or guys they knew are passed away because of all these chemicals, and they're rotting from the inside out, so to speak. So I got this idea to do these paintings that are on rusted metal, and these young soldiers who are rotting. The metal's going to rot, and it's going to be really a social commentary on what's happening to these guys who are now in their 70s and are dying from this stuff. And I wanted to paint these young soldiers, and from year to year, the metal will rot, and I don't know what it's going to do to the paintings. It's going to change them every year. And it's really to say, hey, these young soldiers are dying.
Yeah.
These guys
what a great idea.
Yeah.
Sad, but great idea.
And it's to get us to, again, be aware of what we did to these guys. And even their kids are affected by this, birth defects and stuff like that. So here are these young soldiers. I just wanted to paint these 18-year-old kids, and rotting away.
Yeah. So thanks for joining us along with Brian, and a wonderful tour of his studio. As I said, he is artist extraordinaire, and I'm sure that after all of this, you would certainly agree. So until the next time.